friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Brutus Monroe video. Let's get right into what we're making today. I'm going to be using this brand new set called Boardwalk. We're also going to be using the Folkwave stencil, and we're going to be using the circle foundation dies, as well as some media paste and some watercolor paper. And then I also have an array of aqua pigments. We're going to be using red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Yes, folks, you guessed it. It's a rainbow. Our challenge was to make a rainbow card or a rainbow project, and so that's where we're headed. So I've got my watercolor paper cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I have the Folkwave stencil put over the top of that. And I'm going to grab the media paste. This stuff is great. It gives a lot of texture, and it looks nice, and then you can kind of build up over the top of it. So you can color over it, watercolor, whatnot, and just experiment, play, have fun. So I've only put this on the upper, probably 2/3 of the page, and then I'm going to take the stencil and move it down. I don't mind that there's going to be a gap there in the center. And I'm slowing this down here for a second because I want to show you who's on my shoulder, super interested in what we're doing today. That would be Max. So you're going to see his little head poking because he's on my shoulder. He is so enthralled with what I'm doing. And so I'm going to peel the stencil away, and you'll see what we'll be left with, which is pretty cool. And then I'm going to set that off to the side and clean up my mess. All right, now we're going to heat set this because I'm an impatient crafter. And this stuff can be heat set. You don't have any issues with that. It might take a minute or two. But yeah, it's all dry and ready to go. So what we're going to do is it's kind of, pretty common in the mixed media world, but you can translate this into card making. I'm going to put some color at the very top in rainbow order. So it's not going to look like much right now. So I started off with the red, there's the orange, now we're going to put some yellow. And if you've never worked with aqua pigments before, you're missing out. So here we have the green, and then here's the blue, and then we're going to bring in the violet. And like I said, it doesn't look like much right now, but I'm going to tip this upside down, or not upside down, but just tip it up and then spritz some water on it. This is the reason I chose watercolor paper. Not only am I using aqua pigments, but also because I'm going to be doing a lot more spraying. I want to really try to get these colors to move, and by holding it up like this, we're able to drip that down a whole lot more, and it'll cover more as well. So I'll spritz it with more water, get that color to move even more, add color where I think I want it. Loving the dripping. That is the pretty common thing in mixed media, is to get drippage. Add a little more blue, a little more violet, and then I'm even going to add more water and kind of like tap it on the bottom onto my glass mat, trying to get that color to move even more. And then I do have quite a pool of water and color at the bottom, so I'm going to wipe that up here in a second, but we're going to go upside down and do the same thing because I want these to not completely meet in the middle, but to connect a little bit because I wanted a little bit more color down at the bottom. But I don't mind the white space. I kind of want the white space there because I want those drips to show. So here we'll clean up our mess. I'll even kind of wipe the bottom because I noticed that the green was moving its way over. And then we're going to heat set this as well. So as it dries, it kind of gets a little bit more subdued, but I love how the stencil really shows in that background. I'm going to take a little spray bottle. I've got my Aqua Pigment in the color Pearl, which is just a clear pearlescent, gorgeous aqua pigment. If you don't have this one, it's a must. I'm going to put about 3 squirts in there and 1 dropper of water. I didn't want to dilute it too much. And then I'll close up my little mister. You could use a spray bottle, like I said, and then I'll mix that up a little bit, and I am going to put this in my splatter box and spray that. I want there to be a good amount of shimmer. You can add more water and kind of dilute it a little bit more, but I didn't want that. I wanted some pretty intense shimmer. So I'll show you what this looks like. I am in love with this. I just think it looks so beautiful. It really adds a little something to that because the background dried very matte-like. And so now take a look at that. That beautiful bits of shimmer in there. It's just so pretty. Really makes that background pop. And then we have a lot of good texture going on. So for our image, I don't want to cover up that background too much. So I've pulled out some heat resistant vellum. We're going to put this into our mini misty, and I'm going to grab the image that I want to use. We're going to kind of take a look at what dye I want, which was just one of these circle dies that I have from the foundation dies. And then we're going to use the embossing powder that made me fall in love with Brutus Monroe embossing powders. That is the Raven Sparkle. It's the very first embossing powder I ever purchased. And to be honest with you, I was never really an embossing powder person until I bought that embossing powder. And then I, have so many that I love them all. So I did use my magic powder bag on that vellum, and I stamped down with my embossing ink. And then I'm covering that with that Raven Sparkle. It's just so gorgeous. And then I'll heat set that till that is melted. And it happens pretty quickly on this heat resistant vellum, which is nice. And then I'll give you a show of how that actually looks. It's so pretty, so sparkly, and so beautiful. Love it. All right, so I am going to take my circle die and kind of put that over the center. I don't mind at all. In fact, I want there to be some of it that it doesn't get cut on the side, because I am going to have that hang off the side. Adds a little interest to your card. I have some Raven cardstock that I've put into my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp one of the sentiments from that boardwalk set using some embossing ink. Stamp that down, and then I'll cover that with some Alabaster embossing powder. Yeah, it's hard to believe that Alabaster wasn't the first embossing powder that I purchased from Brutus Monroe. But then again, if you saw my embossing drawer, you'd see that I clearly love Brutus Monroe embossing powders. All right, so I'll heat set that till that is smooth and melted, and then we're going to trim that down with our trimmer. Make it nice and thin, a nice black strip. And this will definitely be longer than our card front, but we can fix that later. We want to center it before we cut it. My card base is going to be some of your Not Your Mama's heavyweight cardstock. If you've never tried this cardstock before, it's incredible. It's great. It's thick. And when I score it, I like to score it on both sides so that I can kind of break up those fibers a little bit. And then you can score it at 4.5 inches. Make sure you just use your bone folder to get it nice and secure. I'll use some craft glue to put it on the back of my panel. And then I'll attach that to my card base. And if I had been thinking, I would have done this last. I am always doing this. I want to stamp on the inside, but at this point, I've already put my card panel down onto my card base, so we're just going to have to deal with it. But yeah, I'm always doing this. To attach my vellum, if you use regular glue, it's going to show, so I'm going to use a sticker maker just to make sure that I can have that vellum completely covered with adhesive. And but like I said, you could use regular glue. It's just, it might show through the back. So here I am putting this into my MISTI, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp like a normal person. I could stamp it on the right hand side, but no, I've chosen to do it the hard way and stamp it on the left hand side where I actually have my card panel on. But to be honest with you, it works out fine because there's not that much additional dimension that it affects it too much. So I'm able to stamp it a couple times and it works fine. But note to self, try to stamp first and then attach. All right, I'll peel off my sticker, which is actually very satisfying. And then I can attach this down to the front and it just looks like it's a part of it. I love it. And then the background shows through. I've got some black Brutus Monroe foam tape, which is great. I love this foam tape. And I'm going to cut it down the center because I don't need my strip to be so big. And there's Max, just so interested. And I'm going to put that over, I'm actually going to put it onto my card panel before I attach my sentiment. I've actually found that this is easier for me. So I can get my thing down straight and then I can peel off the release paper. And especially since this little sentiment strip has a lot more hang off on the sides, this way I can kind of make sure that it's good and centered before I attach anything, and then I don't have to worry about whether or not it's really that straight. So then I'll trim off all of the excess, and that's actually going to finish off our card. So I love how this turned out. I'm going to have everything linked down below so that if you are interested in any of the products that I used, you can check those out. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in the next video. And thank you for stopping by.